Hello, I mentioned postmodernism in a previous video, and I sounded sympathetic to it. Nobody asked, but just in case you're wondering, I watched a Christopher Walken impersonation. Doesn't have sounding weird, but anyway, in case you're wondering, I'm not a postmodernist. Um, this feeling was affirmed when I read most of Postmodern Anarchism by Lewis Call. I only have one more chapter left, so like 10 pages. I'm done. It's not that big a book. And I also might, from my memory of reading this book, or I didn't read it, actually, I tried to read it. It's really hard to get through. Basically, I read this book like recently. Like, I was reading it just now before making this video. And I couldn't really tell you what it's about. And I guess from their perspective, and from what seems true for me, is I still have like an Enlightenment, rationalism type view of looking at things. So things make sense, they're argued for in a certain way, they're organized and structured. So I understand like arguments from like this book pretty easily. It makes sense. Because it's argued in an Enlightenment fashion. Or arguments from this book makes sense because it's in a certain mode of thinking that I've been raised in, and I know how it works. A certain rational mode of thinking. And the thing is, it's not that this book is hard to read. Actually, you could probably read this. It's like 150 pages, and you could probably read it in one sit. So that's the thing. It's like really easy to read. But I don't have a postmodern way of thinking, or it could simply be that it's all hogwash, as a lot of people would probably think. I just can't follow what the arguments are, and it seems they seem to jump around. Lewis College jumps all over the place. So there's no Kantian type thing where he sets up a structure and like it gives a detailed argument that like covers all bases all the way through. No like detailed rational argument. In fact, I get like the only thing I get out of this is that like the guys in here are against the politics of the real. It's something about the hyperreal and the revolt of the signs and semiotics. The kid used the word semiotics and semiology all the time. It doesn't define it. And that's another thing. Like, it doesn't define everything. It's not. Maybe the problem with this book is that it's not original. It's not very original or creative. In other words, this person didn't try to create their own system of postmodern anarchism. They just went over a bunch of people who were kind of postmodern and kind of anarchist, or full-blown postmodern, full-blown anarchist, and then talked kind of about them, but without them like relating to each other all that much, without there being like a big structure all the way through it. So, like there was one point in there, the only point I understood kind of, but still don't really get why it's a point, or is something about how like Marxism fails because Marxism still uses the classical economic bourgeois thinking on economics. Yeah. So is that why is that bad? Is what I'm trying to say. They say it's. I think they said it's bad because it'll still always be bourgeois because it's politics of the real or something. I don't know. Do any of you understand postmodernism? Like it's not hard to understand in terms of like Wittgenstein, because reading Wittgenstein, it's hard because it's so like condensed, and it is like an Enlightenment type thinking. It's very structured and very, very rational, very building up a pyramid to the grand conclusions. So yeah, I understand normal analytic philosophy. And I understand a good chunk of continental philosophy, but I'm still in that. I'm an American for one, so analytic is what I know. I go to an analytic college, so reading this, it's like reading something from another planet. Like, I don't get it. Like, what the hell are they saying? So, like, some things that I want to ask my subscribers. What is hyper-reality? What do they mean by Baudrillard's revolt of the signs against the semiotics of bourgeois capital and state? I didn't get that either. What is the politics of the real, and why are they against it? Because I didn't really understand why. Here, they made lots of off-the-cuff remarks that needed a whole lot more explanation. I don't know. I guess I'm just disappointed because I read philosophy books all the time, and I don't know if this was just a waste of time or just a glimpse into a type of philosophy that like is completely foreign to my like being, or what. Also, it talked about Foucault's argument against all signs and bourgeois rational semiotics, and how he doesn't seem to give any options other than ecstasy of LSD or something crazy like that, like revolting against all signs. I don't know. There's like no argument here. Like, I don't know what the heck is going on. So, if you've read this book, which chances are you haven't, but chances are one of you knows postmodernism, please make a video to this video explaining to this guy what the heck this stuff is, because I'm lost. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I tried to read this book, and I just couldn't get very far before I was like, what the hell? Like, and it's not like it's not like Wittgenstein where it's difficult because it's just hard for your brain to get around, but then once your brain gets around it, you're like, oh. It's more of a reading words, and like, the words make sense, but they don't seem to be saying anything. Whereas, with Wittgenstein, the words kind of make sense, but they seem to be saying something really profound, and you figure it out eventually. This, I feel like I could read these postmodern books over and over and over again and still not know what the hell I'm reading. I don't like it when philosophy is like that. I like philosophy to be clear. It makes sense. At least to be clear and to make sense after reading it enough times. Like Wittgenstein, if you read it like a dozen times, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But if you read, I feel like I read a postmodernism, it's like, what? All these words look like an argument, but I don't see an argument. Maybe this book just isn't the best introduction to postmodernism, and I just need to give this one another shot. Sorry if this is ranty, whatever. Just help guy out. Also, aliens again. Ancient Alien Marathon was on today. It's aliens. Postmodernism, aliens. Oh, by the way, there's a Facebook page dedicated to aliens. I think I'm going to post it just for fun. Yeah. And camera goes into the cup.